Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Monday, October 17th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith with you, ready to break down the Monday card. Just a reminder, moving forward, our Monday shows will be a little bit later than the normal 2 p.m. Eastern, so we're looking at around 2:45 most Mondays Eastern time till the end of the college football season, but we are here. Before we get into the card, too, we want to mention the Patreon page, patreon.com/iceguys. Again, it's just $10 a month to get on with that. Get on board with that. You'll get our daily Ice Guys show card. You'll get tons of content, features, Alex's goalie rankings, my power ratings, my first set. I mean, I had a preseason set. I didn't post them because it's just time issues, but my first adjusted set for the first week of the season got posted to the page last night. So you can check that out right now, patreon.com/Ice Guys. You've already had to make some adjustments, in terms of upgrading teams, downgrading teams. So make sure you check that out. It is on the page. So a lot of great content there.
And a quick thing, too, about this, because I know we both technically have our own sets of team power rankings. Like the way that my chart works is that those are the teams ranked in order, and then the goaltenders ranked, who's starting, who's the backups, and the drop-off I have between one goalie to the next. So, Ian, is your chart more of a fast chart and saying that, it'll change within a couple of weeks, or is it more of a slow chart that, it's long-term stuff? You're not going to overact by one or two big losses or one or two big wins.
That's exactly the case. I mean, you look at it, I've upgraded Philly significantly in my power ratings, but we're not going from 37 because they were actually dead last for me coming in. Right. I had them below Chicago, Arizona, San Jose, any of those bottom feeders you could think of. I had Philadelphia lower than all of them, and they've obviously had a nice little 2-0 start. They got a little exuberance for their new head coach, John Tortorella, and it's not always shocking to see Torts get the most out of his teams early. And that was the one concern I had with the Philly worst regular season record bet that I have, is that maybe Torts is just going to get everything out of this team. But yeah, they're 2-0. They do have one of the best records in the NHL, but just because they have one of the best records in the NHL now, you can't put them all the way up in the top 10. It's been an upgrade. We've moved them up, but we haven't moved them from 32nd to 10th or 12th or anything. It's just up to 24th is where I've got them now. Okay. Still, one of the bottom 10 teams in the league, but clearly we've moved them up a little bit. But again, a bad week now for Philly this week, and they could move right back down again. So It's constantly an adjustment, as it is in the betting industry, of course.
Right. And I was going to say, my rankings are a bit slower in terms of, like I said, I'll move the goalies around, especially, obviously, for example, Toronto. When you have an injury, I shuffle an injured player out of the top 2 spot and I bring in whoever the backup is. But the teams, they've changed a little bit in this update I just did maybe like 15 minutes ago. They won't move that much in a week, where the goaltenders might move in 3 days. So that's something to keep in mind when you're using these charts and these rankings. Definitely when you check them out. We're also working on some more bonus content coming up. We've got things lined up in the next 2-3 weeks. That we'll be posting on the Patreon page. So patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month, but a lot more extra things that we can't fit into our regular show, and that pertinent info we think we can share with you guys.
Exactly. Good stuff indeed. And again, the daily card that we have, the plays that we recommend on this show, is available on the Patreon page as well. We know people are tight for time. They can't listen and watch every show. And that's the benefit of that. You'll get our plays that we give out on the show on the Patreon page that we post them daily on there. All right, let's get to the Monday card. A rare day off in the NHL, but we're back at it with 9 games tonight in the NHL, starting with Vancouver and Washington. The Capitals -135, home favorite, 6 the total. So am I ready to buy Washington? Everything's hunky-dory. Everything's phenomenal again that they beat Montreal. Not a chance. I like Vancouver here in this spot, +115. I think it's a focus spot. I think it's a Canucks team that wants to get off the schneid. I think I liked hearing what I heard from JT Miller after a disheartening loss where they had a 2-0 lead to Philadelphia Saturday. They coughed it up. JT Miller saying, I've got to be a whole lot better. Not only me, the team has to play better, but I think I can be a whole lot better than I've been. So I like JT Miller to score a goal tonight as well. Some props involving him. I think Vancouver gets certainly desperation, urgency. Now that they've started the season, they lost the first game against Edmonton. They lost, of course, to Philly. They're 0-2. I think Vancouver here at a nice underdog spot, an underdog price, +115, in a spot where I think we're going to get them really playing the right way to try to get this first win. I expect them to be that little extra effort defensively on the back check. maybe blocking a shot or two more than you normally would in a regular season. I think you'll see all that come to the forefront tonight for the Vancouver Canucks in this game. Demko and Kemper, by the way, the goaltenders that are confirmed for this game. Keep in mind, too, Washington's still very much shorthanded up front. Kuznetsov now as well, a day-to-day situation. Game time decision for tonight's game for Washington. They've already got absences of Backstrom, Hagelin, and Wilson. So if you add Kuznetsov onto that, certainly a shorthanded Washington team. I like Vancouver in this spot as a dog. Vancouver, Alex, what do you think here? Vancouver, Washington.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm on like Vancouver here in the spot as well. And this is a Capitals team, like I said, they got the win against Montreal, but that wasn't a easy win by any means. They had to still kind of grind out and battle for it. So that's just telling you where they're at right now. And they're like one of those teams that I did drop in my power rankings. They just seem to be a slow, bad team with not much offensive punch, something that we could always kind of rely on with Washington. You didn't know what kind of defense you were going to get. There were questions about the goaltending last year, but now the offense is in question. That's a really bad sign for the Caps here. So I like Vancouver to get back on the right track at a plus price here.
All right, liking Vancouver as well. Pittsburgh, Montreal. We've got Pittsburgh minus 250, road favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Lots going on here with this game. First of all is the fact that Jake Allen added to the injury report for Montreal. Not injury report, but actually a leave of absence. So he won't be available tonight for the Canadians. Won't start. So Sam Montembeault will be in net tonight for Montreal in this game against Pittsburgh. And the Penguins going to start for the first time this year, Casey DeSmith, giving Tristan Jarry a night off and a break here in net for the Penguins tonight. DeSmith in net last year. 2.79 goals against average, 914 save percentage, and the win-loss record was only 11-11, so 500 with DeSmith in net. I'm taking a shot, Alex, with Montreal here, a small shot. I mean, Montreal is going to be one of those teams where you got to pick your spots with them, but the one thing I know about the Habs so far, the loss to Detroit, the loss to Washington, the loss to Detroit was not good because they got thoroughly outplayed, outshot. Detroit was the better team in that game. No question about that. But in a tough spot back-to-back against Washington, they hung in there. I mean, I thought they played a decent road game in that one. Now they're back home where they have their one win this year against Toronto. I think being in front of the Bell Center crowd, you saw great energy from them when they played the Leafs. I certainly like the forward group, Caulfield and Andersons and Suzuki and company. I definitely think Montreal can put the puck in the net, especially at home. And you got a Pittsburgh team that, look, great start, but they played Arizona, who's the worst team in my power ratings right now that just got posted in their first game at home. And then they played a Tampa Bay game. It was a nice win, really nice win against the Lightning, who are still a very good team. But keep in mind the spot for Tampa. It was a back-to-back. They played in Columbus the night before. I think Pittsburgh kind of took advantage of that, and they also faced Brian Elliott. They did not face Andrei Vasilevsky in net on Saturday night. So I think now they're going on the road for the first time after two, good home performances. I could see this one being a tougher game for Pittsburgh than maybe they think going into it. So I'm going to sprinkle on the Habs here at plus 210, and I like the over as well at 6.5 in this game. I think it'll get there. Pittsburgh is scoring. Pittsburgh's on this crazy over streak now dating back to last year. I think 10 or 11 in a row have gone over for Pittsburgh. So, and they've scored 6 in every game so far this year. I think they'll score still on Montreal, but I think Montreal at home, they will contribute to the offense as well. So I like this game over the total. Look for 6.5 because a lot of books have moved to 7. See if you can find a 6.5. If you can, I like that over. What do you think here, Alex? Pens and Habs.
Yeah, this is one where I'm going to look at live with the over. I think Pittsburgh, this is, Montreal, they know they can't keep up with the same kind of pace and tempo that Pittsburgh's been playing with these last couple of games. They have good offensive punch, but not enough speed, in my opinion, to go trade tit for tat. So I think we get a little bit better value in game. And we've seen this so far this year. We saw a lot of first period overs and full game overs cash on Saturday, but there was a lot of time in between. You didn't have to bet everything pregame. You could have gotten better prices on a lot of things if you just waited within the first 2 to 5 minutes in game. So that's the way I would approach this here. As far as the side goes, the only thing I look at would be Pittsburgh. They're rocking and rolling offensively, and that's something that, like I said, when this team's fully healthy, which they are right now, knock on wood, for those of you in the Steel City, but they can get some goals. That's not an issue. The only issue comes is when they start wearing down and getting tired. I don't see that happening here. They said they've had some home cooking now. They go on the road, so maybe there's a little bit of back and forth here. 210's a bit of a high price. So a lean with Montreal for value, but I like looking at the first period and full game overs live better.
All right, Florida and Boston. This should be a pretty good matchup here for this Monday night card. You've got the Panthers minus 140, road favorites in Beantown, 6.5 the total, 2-0 versus 2-0. I got to give the Bruins some credit. Now they played Arizona for one of their wins, so you don't want to overrate that too much. But they beat Washington, who we've got some issues with. So you can needle this team for the strength of schedule that they've faced in the first two games. Flawed Washington team, maybe the worst team in the league, Arizona. Now you're playing Florida, right? This is going to be definitely a tougher challenge for this Boston team that, again, is still without some key pieces in the lineup. Grzelcyk is close, but he's not back yet. McAvoy still out for a long period of time on that blue line. And now to make matters worse, too, Brandon Carlo has landed on IR, placed on injured reserve. He got injured against Arizona Saturday night. And now you're talking about three key defensemen. 3 of your top 6 are now out for the Boston Bruins on that blue line going into this game. That's concerning for me. Grzelcyk with McAvoy. And now, of course, Carlo added to the mix. And Jake DeBrusk, top 6 forward. Did not play Saturday against Arizona. He got hurt in the Washington game. And Jim Montgomery saying that he's day-to-day. And last we looked, if you look at the most up-to-date line combinations here for Boston, it's doubtful that DeBrusk's going to go tonight. So there's all kinds of concerns right now with Boston from a health standpoint. And, yeah, you beat Arizona and you beat Washington, who's struggling to begin the year with these issues. Are you going to be able to overcome Florida? Florida, with back-to-back wins, they had a nice win to begin the year against the Islanders during this road trip to enter the season. And I'll tell you what, that young Buffalo team, they pushed Florida, gave them everything they could handle, but the Panthers came out on top there in that game. I would only look Florida. In fact, I will probably play Florida for a smaller play. I don't love where the price is at minus 140, but I just think for Boston, this is an eye-opener. This is a wake-up call now. You played the sisters of the poor, if you will. Washington and Arizona, you're going to play someone a little bit better here tonight. And now the injuries are mounting. You've got maybe your top 3, if you ask me, defensemen out. McAvoy, Grzelcyk, Carlo. Tough to overcome that against a Florida team that, look, changing the way they play offensively, but they've shown they're still explosive, but they're just doing it a different way. Like I said, with Paul Maurice there now, Alex, it's not scoring off the rush and transition game all the time. It's chip and chase. It's forecheck. It's cycle the puck in the offensive zone. See if you can wear down the blue line. I think it's even more beneficial to play that way tonight when you're talking about Boston being without 3 of their best defensemen tonight. Cycle that puck in the offensive zone. Wear down this young defense. Force these guys that are in there tonight for Boston to really have to defend in their own zone for a long period of time. That's going to be a challenge, and that's what could end up being a concern here for the Bruins. Maybe the team total over, you could look at that with Florida as well. But, you're going to see Jakob Zaboral's going to get more ice time. Forbert and Clifton has moved up to your second pair. I don't like that. Dan Renouf is going to come in from the AHL to play on defense tonight. I mean, this is a very, very thin blue line right now for Boston. Take advantage of it if you're Florida. What do you think here, Alex, with the Panthers and the Bruins?
Yeah, this is one where I'm actually looking at an under with the 6.5 at even money. And it's because of, one, you mentioned the injuries that are mounting with Boston. No DeBrusk, that's big offensively, but no Carlo. Like I said, now taking a third defenseman out of your original top 6 out of the lineup. I think the forwards are going to be a bit more reactionary and be a little bit more conservative to not let those D-men get into trouble. Don't hang them out to dry. I think there's going to be a lot more two-way action from the collective unit of Boston tonight, as well as the goaltending. And then with Florida, you mentioned about how, play the cycle game that the Maurice has installed. This is the one where I kind of wondered, and the question mark that looms for me with this play is, could Florida try to revert back tonight because they know that Boston's blue line is a little weaker? Or do they still try to want to keep that same style? If they keep the same style, which I think they will, then I think that leads to the under 6.5 here. This could easily be a 3-1 game. Like I said, grind it out, wear Boston down. They only need maybe no more than 4 goals here. With the 6.5, we're getting kind of lucky. I think, if that's the case. Now, Florida, if they decide to run and gun it, then this number could possibly be in trouble, because we know Boston can at least counterpunch a little bit with their offense at times and that style. But it's kind of a name your game thing with Florida here. What do they want to play and dictate it? I think they should get the win. It is noted 3 of the last 6 meetings between these two have gone to overtime, so I'd maybe take a slight lean with the draw possibly here as well.
Good stuff there from Alex with breaking it down for Florida and Boston. And a couple things I want to point out too, because with Boston, we do have one of these classic, even though I like Florida tonight, we do have one of these classic prop situations taking place with the Bruins tonight, where Craig Smith is moving up to the top line, it looks like tonight, because of the absence of DeBrusk. We always wondered who's going to get that spot. It's going to be Craig Smith. So there you go. Top line, maybe sprinkle on Craig Smith goal and Craig Smith point in this game tonight for the Boston Bruins. So definitely something to keep an eye on. As far as Florida goes, Matthew Tkachuk got his first non-empty net goal as a Florida Panther the other day. And again, you look at this team, you've got Verhaeghe, Barkov, Reinhart, Tkachuk playing with Bennett, and Balcers on the second line right now. So nice start for the Panthers. And look, Bobrovsky was good in his first start, even after a shaky preseason. We'll see if he can keep it going. It's Bobrovsky and Linus Ullmark, by the way, the goaltending matchup here for this game. All right, next up, we've got Anaheim taking on the New York Rangers. Rangers minus 250, home favorites, 6 the total. I was thoroughly disappointed with Anaheim the other night. I did not expect them to be that pathetic, that bad against the New York Islanders, but they were. It just was not a very good performance from them by any stretch of the imagination. They'll certainly be looking to bounce back here, but they're facing obviously what we think is a much better hockey team. It's going to be a little bit challenging here with the Ducks and for the Ducks tonight against a Rangers team back home, rested too, since they haven't played since that first loss of the season against Winnipeg, which I don't fault the Rangers for that. Tough spot, back to back. They played Minnesota before. The night before. I think the Rangers probably win this game in this one, and certainly going to be challenging for Anaheim against and a Ranger team off a loss is not a team I'm looking to go against. So it's a game I'm passing on. Obviously, it's not a great value with the Rangers, but I do expect them to get the win. We don't have goalies confirmed yet for this particular game, but expect Gibson and Shesterkin probably to be the goaltending matchup. That's what I would think. They're projected right now. We just don't have it confirmed as of right now. But, the more you look at it with Anaheim, I like I say, I think this team's going to be better. They had a terrible game against the Islanders, and they did beat Seattle. But keep in mind with Seattle, you look at that Seattle game, they were down big in that game, and they needed a third period rally, and then they won in overtime. So they've got to do a better job playing for 60 minutes. Here in this one. Looks like Nicholas Earl going for the dog. Like I say, I like spots to back Anaheim as a dog, but the one of the few teams I will not do it against is the New York Rangers, especially when they're coming off a loss. So for me, this is going to be a pass, maybe a lean to the under. You got to think Anaheim wants to play a little bit better defensively tonight as well. And 6 with Shesterkin in net is always kind of interesting to me toward maybe an underlook. What do you think here, Alex? Ducks, Rangers?
I think Jarek Rubel in the chat nailed it perfectly. I like the Rangers here on the first period puck line. You can get as high as plus 128 over at BetOnline, plus 125 and a couple other shops. This definitely feels like a spot where the Rangers come out hot and get things rolling. Now, if this were, say, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks later or so forth, I would probably look at the over here. I think this would be a spot because I think Anaheim, like you said, they're going to be a little bit better. They're definitely a team you're going to want to back with, dog spots. But I just think this is not really the time where they, like say, playing a Rangers team off of a loss and this early, this fresh. There's still a mismatch between these two clubs, style-wise and talent-wise overall. So I like Rangers first period puck line. Wouldn't touch anything full game side or total, but maybe a slight, ever so slight lean to the over here because we've seen Anaheim be susceptible to giving up goals. You give up 7 to the New York Islanders offense. What can you do what can you give up to a Rangers team if they're clicking early and hot? So that's the one concern there. So lean to the over, but I like blue shirts in the first period on the puck line.
Yeah, and we're continuing to think that as long as he plays on the top line for this Rangers team, there's going to be a value with Capo Caco every game to score a point, score a goal. So I'm coming right back to the well with that. As far as the Anaheim goes, the ones that I'm interested in, you got Terry Zegras are the obvious choices. I get that, people wanting to bet that, but I'd look at the 2 former Rangers. We always love this angle, the player facing his former team, and you've got 2 former Rangers on this Anaheim team, Ryan Strome and Frank Vetrano. I would consider props on them. Not big amounts, but sprinkle a little bit. Both Frank Vatrano and Ryan Strome score a goal tonight for the Ducks. I mean, they're certainly going to be fired up. You always are when you play your former team. And I know Vatrano was not with the Rangers for a while, only half a season, but Strome was. Strome's been there was there for a couple of years at least. So I think both of them could be tempting for goal props tonight. Strome and Vatrano for the Anaheim Ducks in this game tonight. All right, next up here, we've got, as we continue along in this, and Strome, by the way, is going to be on the top line center spot tonight. Looks like they're shaking up the lines, Dallas Aiken. Strome between Terry and McTavish. There, McTavish on the top line. That's perking my interest, too, because he's actually played pretty solid for his first couple of games. And again, he's just getting used to the NHL. Now he'll be on the top line tonight with Strome and with Terry. Arizona and Toronto next up. Toronto minus 490. How about that? Almost $5. Minus 490. 7 the total as well. That's moved up from 6.5 in this game. Huge price, huge number here on the Leafs. Arizona's looked rough. Arizona's looked the part of maybe the worst team in the league so far. There's no denying that whatsoever. They've been beaten up pretty badly. They've struggled at the defensive end, beaten by a combined score of 12-5 in their first 2 games against Pittsburgh and Boston. Not going to get any easier here against Toronto. And, the big news for Toronto is obviously Murray, we know, is on long-term injury reserve because of what happened there. A situation where, we just feel bad for him because, he plays 1 game and he's on LTIR now with a groin injury. So Ilya Samsonov had to start on Saturday against Ottawa instead of Murray, and he played well. Samsonov's played well for the Leafs, but Samsonov will not start tonight. They're going to opt to go with Erik Källgren, who got called up Saturday with Murray injured, and he'll make his start. Now, Källgren's not someone that's new to the NHL. He started a bunch of games last year with the Leafs, Erik Källgren, second half of the year. And I like this decision, actually, by Sheldon Keefe to get him in there. If you're going to put him in there finally for 1 game and give him 1 start over these next couple weeks, I'm sure Samsonov's going to get a lot of the workload with Murray out, but this is the spot. You're at home against lowly Arizona. However, just as I say that, I do need to caution everybody. It's not been so lowly, Arizona against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Arizona beat them twice last year in Arizona, and then in Toronto, Arizona also won. So this is a dangerous little spot for Toronto. But so like the full game, I don't want Toronto. But one thing we have seen, and Alex and I talked about this Saturday, and it's a little experiment, science experiment, or in this case, betting experiment. We talked about this. The first period puck line for the opponent against Arizona and the first period over in the game against in games with Arizona. Let's bet them every game until they lose. And look, Pittsburgh, the first game, Pittsburgh first period puck line, winner. First period over, 1.5, Pittsburgh, Arizona, winner. The second game, Boston, Arizona, Saturday. Boston, first period puck line against Arizona, winner. First period over, cashes, winner. I mean, to me, this is going to be the pattern we're going to see. Teams are going to want to jump on this bad team early, park the bus, protect the lead once they get up by a couple of goals, and then just coast to victory. That's what we saw Pittsburgh do, and it's what we saw Boston do. So I do like Toronto in the first period puck line here. I'm just going with that. It's an experiment. I said I'm going to take this every game with Arizona until it loses. Take the opponent. Now, this is not a great price. You rarely ever see a -0.5 at -125 for a first period puck line, but that's what you've got here in this game. I am on that. I'm going to look for a lot. I certainly lean over. I'm going to look for a live over at 6.5. Maybe we get a 5-minute stretch of no scoring early in this game. So then I'll jump on a live over. And same with the first period over. I want to bet that too. But the first period total is 2 pretty much across the board. It's 1.5 in a couple spots, but you want to lay -190 with that? I don't think so. So I'm going to wait for a live first period and full game over in this game. Pre-game, take Toronto -0.5, -125. Just the experiment that I think these teams are going to jump on Arizona out of the gate early. We've seen Boston and Pittsburgh both do that. So see if Toronto can do that. This is where we're going to see how mature Toronto is. Toronto wants to, and they're locked in. They can be up 3-0 against this team in the first period. But sometimes we have these issues with this Toronto team. They play down to competition. They lost twice to Arizona last year, but I'll take a shot with them first period puck line tonight. Alex, Coyotes, Leafs.
Yeah, so here's the thing, and you posed a great question at the end. How mature is this Maple Leafs team? And I still think the jury's out on that. It's still pretty early. They're going with the third string goalie, Shalgren. I'm getting experimental in a different way. I'm like in Arizona, and I saw this on Twitter, and it made total sense once I looked at the notes. Arizona with the alternate spread of +2.5 minus $1.10. You don't see those prices unless it's the Olympics or the World Juniors, essentially.
I actually like that. Even though I like Toronto first period puck line, I like that.
I'm going to take that full game. I think they can keep it close. And then you look back at the last 3 games, 2 of them going to overtime. The other one was a 2-1 decision. Toronto hasn't necessarily been one of those teams to blow out bad Arizona teams over the last couple of years. And obviously this Arizona team is worse than they've been the last couple of years. I would take a small shot at the 3-way draw. You're looking at price as high as $5.55 at DraftKings. That is awfully ridiculously high, especially when you're talking about a third-string goalie going against the Arizona team that, like you said, they've played up in competition. I think better competition than Toronto so far. Boston, of course, the verdict's still out on them. They're going to take their step down. But Pittsburgh offensively, Pittsburgh is right now where Toronto should be. And Toronto's not. They struggle, and I think if Toronto's not geared up and jazzed up for this game, the home ice advantage, if you look at my charts and rankings, I have Toronto's home ice as a 1. That crowd doesn't really get fired up unless it's a rivalry game. And how many people give their tickets away to family members and coworkers and different things for the Arizona Coyotes tonight. So maybe it's not the same electric atmosphere that we saw against Montreal and in the home opener. Maybe Arizona can get a goal early, and the pace gets kind of a little kooky. Toronto more likely ends up with a win, but who's to say it's not happening in overtime, or who's to say it's not a 1-goal decision? So Coyotes 2.5 minus $1.10, and the 3-way draw plus $5.55 going with both of those.
All right, there we go. Coyotes, and I agree with that. Again, this has been working for me with this first period puck line, but this is a scary game for Toronto with Shalgren and net. They lost both times to Arizona, so clearly this has been a team that's been a thorn in their side. It's just something to keep an eye on. So, it's funny. I could take Toronto first period puck line, but that doesn't stop me from taking that +2.5 or even a small sprinkle for crying out loud at the +390.
We have a rare middle opportunity in a hockey game.
Yeah. Exactly. Because chances are, if Toronto's not up, like Toronto has a bad first period, they're probably going to be up against it in this game. They're going to be in tough. And Vamelka's actually put some of his best performances on the board in the past against Toronto. I remember that game in Arizona last year. The fucking guy stood on his head, made like 40-some saves against Toronto. So dangerous game for them. I do like I'm going to take a shot again with Malgin again to score. I think he's one of the more value-laden goal scorer prop options for Toronto right now. And look, if you're going to take someone for Arizona, it starts and it ends right now with Clayton Keller. You could even put Nick Ritchie there right now. And keep an eye on this Dylan Guenther kid. They're putting him up the lineup. This is a guy that, is now on the second line, and he got an assist. 2 shots on goal in the game against Boston. And they really like this kid, Dylan Guenther, for the Arizona Coyotes. So keep an eye on that. There's some props I'm eyeing for this game right there. LA and Detroit. LA minus 140 road favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. I ain't fading Detroit as home dogs. No way. I love this Detroit team. I've cashed with them twice now. And I was a little reluctant about the New Jersey game. But boy, I mean, they gave up the goal early, and then Detroit was the better team, I think, for the last 2 periods in that game. In the third period, they just started to pull away, and that was rough, by the way, for New Jersey, and the fan base is getting upset. The fire Lindy Ruff chants during that game, and that's too bad. Is Lindy Ruff going to play defense? Is Lindy Ruff going to put a body on somebody? Is Lindy Ruff going to make a save in net for his team? I mean, I understand you're upset with him, but this is a guy with a long-term pedigree of success as a head coach. I think there's more issues than just him. I understand the coach takes the fall when the team doesn't do well, but I think if we're putting all the blame at Lindy Ruff's feet, that's a bad job, bad move, in my opinion. There's issues right now. This hasn't been a good defensive team with the New Jersey Devils long before they hired Lindy Ruff as head coach. I'll tell you that right now. That hasn't been fixed. You got to look at the GM and some of that going on with New Jersey and Mackenzie Blackwood. It's not, like I said, Blackwood shitting in the dead of night. That's what he is. He's shitting in the dead of night, not singing like the Beatles song, Blackwood shitting in the dead of night, because he's shitting every game. It's disappointing. He's either hurt, and then when he is in there, he's inconsistent. So I'm finished with listening to this talk that he's the goalie of the future for New Jersey. I'm sick of it. It's time to step up and show it, at some point for the Devils. But give Detroit credit. That was a tough spot too, back to back. And they took care of business against the Devils. Now, the one concern with Detroit, even though, like I said, I won't bet against them, but the concern for Detroit is they do have some key absences tonight for this game at home against LA. Bertuzzi out, Brana out, two of their better forwards, two of their top six. So that's definitely going to be something that's bothersome. And for Bertuzzi, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks for him with an upper body injury. Vrana will miss due to personal reasons. So it's a little bit of a shaken up lineup tonight for Derek Lalonde's team. He's going to roll with Dominic Kubalik. Watch out on the top line with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. That guy is an enigma. He can frustrate you. We know he's got offensive talents, had that 30-goal season in year one and really a precipitous decline ever since. But he's going to get that chance with the captain Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond on that top line. Zadina with Kopp and Perron. But to me, and Dominic Kubalik is your prop value right there. We love these situations. We love these spots. The player moving up the lineup, especially when he's going to the top line. So Dominic Kubalik goal and point prop makes sense to me. I don't know if I'll bet this game. I'm leaning toward passing right now, but Detroit plus 120 as home underdogs is just not a price I'm betting that against that team, even with the absences of Vrana and Bertuzzi. And let's give LA credit. 2 disappointing home losses, picked themselves off the mat and won a wild one. I know Alex was thoroughly entertained by that game. LA and Minnesota Saturday night. Crazy game, back and forth. Kings prevail in a wild shootout, no pun intended, in that game. Just a very impressive game that was start to finish, 7-6. No defense, no goaltending whatsoever, but the Kings found a way. And like I said, maybe the Kings are going to be a little more relaxed on the road. Maybe that's a sign of things to come, that maybe they'll have a good road trip. So we'll see if they can build off that. Lean Detroit. I'm ultimately probably going to pass. Like I said, I'll look at some props that I mentioned a second ago for this game. What do you think here, Alex? LA, Detroit.
Yeah, so this is an interesting spot. Last night, or actually yesterday afternoon, I bet this game over 6 minus $1.20. And then now we get the news that Tyler Bertuzzi out 4 to 6 weeks. But also, I think we're seeing a massive overreaction here to a couple of things. One, obviously, like I said, LA with the crazy 7-6 win over Minnesota. Just jumping all out in front of Marc-Andre Fleury and company, basically chasing him out of the game in the first period. And then Gustafsson didn't really do much to write home about either. They were just trading goals back and forth. But with that being said, Jonathan Quick getting the start now against Ville Husso, and all of a sudden we've seen a move from plus 105 to all the way up to minus 140. It's just really, really strange in my opinion. I don't think the Kings, and I like the Kings. But like I said, I like Detroit too, and at home, I think this is a little bit of an overreaction. So I played over 6. I can't recommend 6.5, especially now with the 2 injuries for Detroit. But I do think we'll still see this game find a way to get some goals. Especially like I said, Dominic Kubalik's definitely a prop player I would take a shot with. I probably will bet him anytime goal scorer tonight as well. I have to check the price on that, but I do like him to get into an offensive rhythm, being on that top line for what's going to be now, like I said, possibly at least 3 to 4 weeks, and those 4 to 6 weeks out with Bertuzzi. But we'll see how he does. If he fares well, he'll stick around on that top line. So like the lean just now with the over at the 6.5 price, but a slight lean as well with Detroit. That they got a plus price at home. They can finally catch the Kings, where LA historically have done well against Detroit. 7 of the last 8 meetings they've won, but this is a different Detroit team. They've taken that step that LA took last year, in my opinion. And so I think Detroit might be able to find a way to get a victory at home tonight.
Like in the Detroit here, home underdog, lean to Detroit here as a home dog. And again, he bet the over 6 up to 6.5 as well prior to the news about Bertuzzi being out for Detroit. All right, maybe the game of the night, even with Minnesota's rough first 2 games to the season, Colorado and Minnesota. We've got the Avs minus 125 road favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. This has just been a calamity of errors for Minnesota in their own end. To begin this season. It has been a disaster. It's been a complete nightmare in 2 games. Now, 2 games does not make a season. We could be looking back, February and March, and look back on these 2 games as just a blip on the radar. But you can't like what you're seeing defensively here from the Minnesota Wild. 7 goals allowed to both the Rangers and the Kings in back-to-back home losses. And it's just been absolutely rough. Now, it's also been rough for Marc-Andre Fleury, all right? He's fighting the puck. There's no denying that. There's no sugarcoat. We love the guy. We love the guy, the person he is, the character that he is. But there's no sugarcoating that. It's been a tough start for him, really tough. Not at his best, not sharp, but it's not all him. I mean, they're not playing. If you watch the 2 Minnesota games, there's breakdowns in front of him too. I mean, it's not all on the goaltending, but at the same time, there's a couple of those shots that went in. He's got to stop. He's got to make a save on them. And look, they need a spark. And Dean Evason is, I don't know if this is totally shocking given the way the season started with 2 losses and 7 goals, 14 total allowed in the 2 games. But considering the pedigree of Fleury, and Philip Gustafsson has not shown us anything in terms of success at the NHL level, and yet Philip Gustafsson is starting tonight for the Minnesota Wild. And they asked Dean Evason, what's the reasoning behind the goaltending change? We've lost 2 in a row. That's the decision. So there you go. Pretty clear. Yeah, there you go. Dean Evason just coming out, wham, hitting you right between the eyes with that response. We lost 2 in a row. We're not getting saves right now. And so Philip Gustafsson and net, I don't know. I hate to say washed Earl. It's Nick Earl. It's too early, but man, it's been rough to see Marc-Andre Fleury, the flower. It's a wilted flower right now. Let's put it that way. And hopefully, he can turn things around. But now all of a sudden, we're going to rush to this confidence with Gustafsson. Not for me. Like I said, he's not exactly someone I trust. You want to know his numbers last year? 3.55 goals against average, 892 save percentage. That's not great. And, you got to face this vaunted Colorado offense. So I understand Minnesota's pissed off, angry, ashamed, embarrassed. I know nobody's happy with the way they've started. I think Matt Zuccarello kind of called out the team too after the loss against LA the other night, but he may not play last I looked. It looks like he is game time decision here for this game. And he's been one of the Wild forwards that's played the best so far this season. Already 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. He left the the practice early on Monday. And so game time decision here tonight for Matt Zuccarello for the Wild. So that would definitely be a blow to them. One of their better forwards to begin the year in 2 games if he doesn't play for them. So I get it. Minnesota's going to want to pull up their bootstraps, play better. But it's not like Colorado's coming into this game giving away 2 points. They haven't played since the loss to Calgary last week. They're coming off a loss. They're not a team I have any rush to bet against off a loss. And they're certainly not a team I'm rushing to bet against off a loss when they're playing a team playing no defense right now and not getting saves. And that's Minnesota. So, maybe maybe this is a night Minnesota just puts it together and has that one, rally the troops game. They buckle up defensively and they get some saves from Gustafsson. He has that shocking game where he makes 38 saves on 39 shots and leads Minnesota to a win. But I need to see it before I believe it, because I'm not ready to believe it. I like Colorado here at the short road favorite price, and I'm going to look over the total 6.5 as well. Again, these 2 bets, Colorado and the over, is show me good defense. Show me you make some saves. Show me you can shore up your own end, especially against this explosive, dynamic, high-scoring Colorado squad before I'm ready to trust it. And that's where I'm at with Minnesota. The locals can't be happy. Alex, what's your thoughts? You're close by. Minnesota Wild here. They're 2-0-2 start, horrendous defensively, now taking on Colorado.
Yeah, they aren't happy at all. And, like I said, Marc-Andre Fleury is supposed to be, a guy who can bring you some stability in that when they brought him in late last season. And that's been far from the case in these first 2 starts now. So Philip Gustafsson getting the start here. And like I said, he made 17 saves on 20 shots in the 40 minutes he played against LA. But that game was still just a mess up and down. And it wasn't all his fault. It was the defenders in front of him just missing a lot of key assignments, not getting active sticks in the lanes and letting LA pass all over them. If they let LA get that kind of offense rolling, it's kind of a name your score with Colorado. If they get it red hot, and especially Minnesota, they took a lot of penalties in the first 2 games as well. You cannot afford to do that with Colorado. We saw it opening night with Chicago Blackhawks, giving 7 power plays to the Avs. They scored 4 power play goals. So this could get ugly in a hurry. I would not look to lay a lot of prices with Colorado this season, but at $1.25, that's way too cheap here. Minnesota, if they can get it, turned around, so be it. But I'm taking a shot with the Avs minus $1.25, and I really love the over 2 at plus 110 in the first period. If Minnesota comes out hot, they got to score early. If Colorado is going to come out hot and play their style, we know they're going to get goals in bunches. So I think 2 at a plus price, that's a fair number here. We should see at least 3 or 4 goals here, whichever team decides to kind of take the reins early in the first period.
Yeah, so good stuff there, like in Colorado as well. And first period over in particular in this game as well between the Avalanche and the Wild. This is put up or shut up time. Let's see if they can tighten up. And you know what? I think a lot of times, Alex, in a spot like this, Everson's talking about the bad, defending, and we got to tighten up. We got to be better in our own end, get better goaltending. Normally, I'd like to say Minnesota's going to be better defensively in goaltending tonight because, the focus will be there. But the problem is the opponent. Now you're playing Colorado in this spot, the vaunted juggernaut Avalanche. And this is not an easy opponent to get right defensively against. So that's the challenge ahead of the Minnesota Wild tonight. All right, Winnipeg Jets, Dallas Stars. We've got Dallas minus 145, home favorite, 6 the total in this game. I think there's something to the angle of Rick Bowness facing his former team. Winnipeg knows that, this is a guy that was, not fired, but I think he technically was forced out, and they made it sound like, let's make it sound good, make it look good on Rick. We'll just say he's, stepping down. But regardless, his former team. And look, I know they took advantage, Alex, of the Rangers on a back-to-back when they played New York on Friday night. I was impressed with the Jets' defensive game. In one game under Bowness, that looked like a team playing with defensive structure. I didn't see as many neutral zone turnovers. I didn't see as much out of position defensively in your own end. I thought that was a very sound defensive game against a very good hockey team, obviously the New York Rangers. Winnipeg looked very good defensively in that game. And that was all training camp. Every article you read from the Winnipeg Jets in training camp, it was focusing on improving and shoring up things in their own end. And it's only one game, but it's a good first start and a good first step for that Winnipeg defense, the way they played against New York and the Rangers on Friday night. Now they take on Dallas, who, look, they've gotten off to a nice start with 2 wins against Nashville, 4-1 and 5-1. Very impressive. No doubt about that whatsoever from the Dallas Stars. And look, I was on Dallas in the first game against Nashville. I didn't take them. I leaned to Dallas in the second game, but I did take the over. It got there as well. Should be a great goaltending matchup here. Connor Hellebuck was very on top, very sharp, very on top of his game against New York on Friday night. The Rangers played well. And obviously, Jake Ottinger's played very well in 2 games, carrying over the way he played in the playoff series against Calgary last year, where he was outstanding. I do lean to Winnipeg a little bit, though, here as dogs on the road. I do. I mean, they've got the time off. You've got now Rick Bowness may not be behind the bench because he was not on Friday, out with COVID, and he might not be able to return tonight. But still, they know that their coach used to play there. I think that matters to still get him a W, even if he's not with the team and he's not behind the bench. I think it's just from a situational standpoint, there's things to like with Winnipeg. I like their defensive game, and they played Dallas tough, actually, in Dallas in the last few meetings. They've, it's always been a tight game, close game. There's been some overtime games. As much as I like Dallas, I'm willing to sell high on them a little bit here after 2 wins against Nashville. I'm going to have a bet on Winnipeg here, plus 125. I actually lean to the under here, Alex, at 6. Talk about it. The Jets want to play, better defense. That's the focus for them. Hellebuck looked good in that game against the Rangers. We know Dallas, they've only given up 1 goal in the 2 games they played against Nashville, and they've got a damn good goalie in Jake Ottinger. So to me, 6 seems a little rich when it comes to this total. So I lean to the under as well. Alex, what do you think? Jets, Stars?
Get the sketchbook out for this one because we're going to draw. That's where we're going with the draw here at plus 330. 5 straight overtimes in the last 5 meetings. 6 of the last 8 meetings going into overtime or a shootout. This is definitely one of those games where I feel it could be close. It could be 2-2 or it could be 3-3. So that's why I'm a little hesitant with taking anything totals wise. We've seen most of these actually go 4-3 in overtime or a shootout. So like I said, even though Dallas, we know how they're going to be responsible defensively. Winnipeg wants to play more, more efficient on the back end. 2 of the best goalies in the world with Jake Ottinger and Connor Hellebuck facing one another. This screams draw to me. I'm surprised we're even getting plus 330. I thought this was going to open up maybe somewhere in the 290, 295 range. So still some good value there. Jet Stars draw plus 330.
It's funny, Rick Bowness, he's got COVID. Hopefully he's going to feel better. Scott Arniel, by the way, is taking over behind the bench until Bonus gets back. If you ever listen to Bonus talk, and I'm sure most of you have because you're hockey fans, you're watching the game. I'm sure a lot of you see the press conferences. Rick Bonus year round sounds like the way I'm sounding right now. He's got that like raspy, sore throat kind of voice all the time. That's the way he talks, Rick Bonus. It seems like he's got a sore throat year round. And that's just his voice. That's just the way he talks. So he's sounding like the way I'm sounding right now a little bit. But we hope Rick Bonus is feeling a little bit better in the near future. But I still think you're going to get a good effort on the road from this Jets team. And you know what's great for the Jets too is we always thought is Mark Scheifele, fully locked in. There was some issues with him last year down the stretch, in terms of, leadership things and, just production. And look, 2 goals in the win against the Rangers for Mark Scheifele. That is a great sign for him. If he plays well and he has a good season, it's going to make the Jets a whole lot better. A little bit. Even after just one game, by the way, I upgraded the Jets a little bit in my power rating. Only 2 spots, but I did upgrade the Jets a little bit following that performance against the Rangers. That was a nice win. That was a really good defensive effort against a damn good hockey team. Good first step for the Winnipeg Jets, but we'll see if they can carry it over to tonight here against Dallas. All right, final game of this Monday card. We've got the Carolina Hurricanes taking on the Seattle Kraken. Carolina minus 165 home favorites here, or road favorites, I should say, in the Emerald City in this game. Total 6.5 here in this game with Carolina and Seattle. I don't know about this spot for Carolina. First of all, we got to give them credit for their 2-0 start. Columbus, San Jose, Columbus at home, San Jose on the road. Defensively, very good. 1 goal allowed, 2 goals in the 2 games, playing good in their own end. The goaltending from Anderson and Ronta in those 2 games was very good. I could see this being an under first period. I agree. Bo Buddy's Nerfic saying under first period. I kind of think that could be the case. We'll see. Seattle, I think they are better offensively. Didn't show against Vegas. They got shut down pretty well in that game against the Golden Knights. Got to give Vegas credit for that. We'll see if they can bounce back here. 5-2 loss to Vegas on Saturday night. That game went over the total. It's tough because, look, Carolina's been playing these really stingy defensive games early on. Their offense hasn't fully gotten it going yet. They've had 78 shots, but just 6 goals in the 2 games. And remember, one of them, I think, was empty net against Columbus. So the offense hasn't fully clicked yet, but the 6.5 for the full game total looks a little high. It does, just the way Carolina is playing defense here right now. As far as Seattle goes, we'll see if they can bounce back from the home loss to Vegas in their home opener. Keep in mind, Carolina plays Edmonton on Thursday after this. So that's a pretty big opponent on their schedule. They beat San Jose, but they had to struggle to win that one. They scored the game winner, and it was reviewed as well, and it had to stand after a video review. But they scored that 2-1 game winner with 2 minutes or so left in the third. So not an easy win against San Jose. I'd be reluctant to lay the price with Carolina. I think they're the better team. Obviously, they're number 4 right now in my power ratings in the NHL, behind New York, Colorado, and Calgary. But I don't know if I want to lay minus 165 with them in this spot. This is more of a prop game for me. By the way, Freddie Anderson, Philip Grubauer confirmed in net. Matty Beniers for Seattle. I'm interested. I'm always, Burakovsky and Bjorkstrand as well for them. And for Carolina, I'm going back to the same 2. I've been betting quite a bit with success. Seth Jarvis, and moving to the country, going to meet me Marty Necas for Carolina. Marty Necas, I think, scored the other night as well. So Jarvis and Necas have been those 2 player prop go to the well players up front for the Hurricanes. So that's where I'm thinking in this game. I don't have a strong take side or total other than a small lean to the under 6.5. What do you think here, Alex? Canes Kraken?
Yeah, I took a small shot here with the first period over, and it's only because it fell in the price range that I was looking at. It's not everywhere. You have to look around. Bet Online's got it minus $1.35. Where other spots had it minus $1.45, $1.50 earlier in the day. So it's interesting to see. We're finally seeing movement now on first period totals going down, but not affecting the full game total. Before we were seeing those kind of correlated, always moving up. Of course, everybody was betting overs, but now people are looking at the unders. But I think people aren't, making the correct adjustments with Seattle's offense right now, where Carolina, yes, they're playing more responsible defensively, but they can turn up the offense at any given time against any opponent. That's just the way that they play. They can adapt and dictate any style. But Seattle's offense is going to press Carolina a little bit more than what we saw from the first two meetings than anything we saw from Seattle last year. I think so. That's my lead is with the first period over. If you can get a good, better price in game, I say go for it. I think you might be able to get that. I don't think we're going to see a goal in the first 5 minutes necessarily. So that's the play I have for here. As far as offside, definitely not looking to take the dog with Seattle, but I'm not going to be laying. Even you have to lay a price with the regulation here for Carolina. So I'm just going to stay with that first period over.
Yeah, I will say this too. Columbus off to a winless start, and San Jose, the first two opponents for Carolina. That's why I'm not taking Carolina. Seattle's, I think, going to be maybe their toughest team yet, honestly. Columbus, I guess you could say, but Laine got hurt that game. San Jose, certainly not. This will be a step up from San Jose playing this Seattle team. So an interesting game. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to it because I get to hear Johnny Forsland and Eddie Olczyk and JT Brown, who does a good job too. Don't forget him. Everybody, they lose track of him because they got Eddie and John Forsland there now. But JT Brown's a good young kid. He's doing a nice job there as well. That's a nice booth they've got for the TV broadcasts for the Seattle Kraken now. I always enjoy it. So I'll be enjoying their wonderful coverage late night here tonight with Carolina and Seattle. All right, great show. Late start, but still awesome show. Running down the Monday card. We appreciate it. Hit the like button, please. You're right. That's a great job. I got to put the comment up there from Rem Most. He's 100% right. I'm sicker than a dog. I'm battling through shit today with this damn throat, which hasn't gotten much better over the last 2 days. And here I am, and we're still here for you. Sicker than a dog giving us this content. Hit the like button. That's right. God damn it. Sure. That's all I ask for. Just hit the like button. That doesn't ask. I'm not asking for too much. So we appreciate it very much. And hopefully we get this throat and this voice back on track sooner rather than later. And by the way, we got a busy week of guests. We got former NHL defenseman Brian Lee joining us tomorrow. Looking forward to that. We had him on during the playoffs, if you'll remember last year. So it'll be good to catch up with Brian again tomorrow on the Tuesday show. We're going to have Mike Hamilton, played many years, ECHL specifically, is now an avid full-time sports bettor, NHL bettor as well. Mike Hamilton on Thursday. We're going to have Nate Rapensky, who was on with us once last year as well during the playoffs on Friday. And Kyle Bond, we rescheduled him to this Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern time, so he'll be with us then. So we got some busy week of guests. We're going to try to get Jimmy Murphy on once this week. I'm waiting to hear back to see if Jimmy's going to join us. He's, like I said, the plan is Jimmy's going to be on once a week with us. So hopefully we'll get a Jimmy Murphy sighting for the first time this week with us here on the Ice Guys. All right, let's wrap this show up. Best bets for this Monday slate. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, we're heading down to Big D, Dallas. We're going to go with the Jets and Stars draw plus 330. The last 5 meetings have gone to an overtime or a shootout. 6 of the last 8 have gone to an overtime or a shootout. These are 2 top-tier goalies, 2 teams that are always responsible defensively. I don't see a lot of high-scoring, back-and-forth action. I think it's going to be a tight, contested game, and it's going to take longer than 60 minutes to figure out who wins it. So we will go Winnipeg, Dallas with the draw in regulation plus 330 is my best bet tonight.
Yeah, even though I like Winnipeg in that game, I might put something on that draw because you cannot overlook this series history of 5 straight games that have gone past regulation head-to-head with the Jets and the Stars. 5 straight have gone to either overtime or a shootout between these 2 teams. So that draw is live, in my opinion. Jets Stars draw, best bet for Alex B. Smith. My best bet, I'm going to go Vancouver Canucks plus 115, actually plus 118. Is the best price available right now. They get win number 1 against a very flawed Washington Capitals team. Vancouver Canucks plus 118 against the Washington Capitals. That is going to be my best bet here for this Monday NHL card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. We appreciate it very much. Hit the like button on the way
over
out.
250 viewers. Already.
Absolutely. Huge viewership today. A
Appreciate
bigger
that.
Monday card than normal. I think that plays a part in it as well. We got another big card tomorrow with our guest, Brian Lee, joining us tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you join us for that right here on the Ice Guys, presented by the National Hockey Now. For Alex P. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Tuesday for another edition of the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now.